The next day, the one after preparation day, the chief priests and the Pharisees went to Pilate. "Sir," they said, "we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver said, 'After 3 days I will rise again.'" So he ordered for the tomb to be made secure until the third day. Otherwise his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he has been raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first. "Take a guard," Pilate answered. "Go make the tomb as secure as you know how." So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. While the women were on their way, some of the guards went into the city and reported to the chief priests everything that had happened. When the chief priests had met with the elders and devised a plan, they gave the soldiers a large sum of money, telling them, "You ought to say, 'His disciples came during the night and stole him away while we were asleep.' If this report gets to the governor, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So the soldiers took the money and did as they were instructed. And this story has been widely circulated among the Jews to this very day.
Sir, what do we know?
I know that I'm breathing, but I don't know how or why. I know that the penalty for losing a live prisoner is death. I don't have any idea what the penalty for losing a dead prisoner is.
With all due respect, sir, the stakes here are very high. You're meeting with the priests. What do we know?
I know that we're rich, but I don't know what good it'll do us.
Will you look at that? This is the first time today that I've had hope.
Hope for what?
A future, of course. Think of what we can do with all of that. Even divided by 4. Think of how far we can get away from here.
Escape the long arm of Caesar? Are you crazy?
Seriously? Don't you think that the further away we are, the better off we'll be? Do you really think Caesar wants us around answering questions?
The problem could be that Caesar knows that if we're dead, we won't be answering any questions.
And that's why we have to leave now.
I am still the leader of this hastily assembled platoon. You still follow me.
We're happy to follow you, but in order to follow you, we have to be moving. Let's go!
Do you really think it's Caesar we should be worried about right now?
Oh boy, here we go.
Explain to me this then, Cassius. How did we end up sprawled out all over that garden with a body and a boulder nowhere to be found?
I don't have to explain that. I just need to take my share of the money and get out of here.
Well, tell me this. Where are you going to go to get away from the power that moved that stone?
That power, whatever it is, if it even is, didn't bother me until I came to this godforsaken place. And I suspect once I get out of here, it'll never bother me again.
Did you mean God-forsaken or God-empowered?
I thought Caesar was God. Why would he let another god make him look so bad?
Maybe we've been bowing to the wrong God.
Yeah, when the choice is a bent knee or a broken body, it's really not much of a choice, is it? Hail to Caesar, and we all stay whole, as long as we do Rome's bidding.
Still, maybe we've been bowing to the wrong God.
Look, either way, the solution is still the same. My share of the money, and as much space as I can put between myself and this place.
You forget that Caesar's immortal. As long as you live, he can be coming after you.
Yes, Caesar is immortal until he dies. And then the next Caesar's immortal until he dies. But what if Jesus is immortal because he lives even after he died?
We don't know that.
What do we know?
Let me tell you what I know. You're all probably here because you were forced to take this assignment. Not me. I've been pursuing Jesus for over a year now. I've been looking for this very position for so long. You see, I first encountered Jesus while under the command of one of our centurions. And he had established roots in the Jewish community of Capernaum. One of his servants fell deathly ill, and the word was that this Jesus of Nazareth was nearby and that he was a miracle worker. So the Jewish community approached Jesus asking for a healing. Well, When my commander found out, he sent his own servants to tell Jesus not to bother coming, just to say the word, and that there would be healing. He said he understood that Jesus could do this as he was also a man under authority, who told people where to go. He believed that Jesus could heal with just a word.
Healing. Simply a word? No touch, nothing physical, just simply a word?
I find that hard to believe.
It's what I saw, what I experienced. It doesn't matter what you believe.
By all means, tell us what you know. Was this man healed?
He was. But first let me tell you about what amazed Jesus, even more than having the power and authority to heal. Jesus was amazed that this foreign man, a man of war, would believe that Jesus could do what he said he could. Jesus was amazed that this man had faith.
Yeah, well, look where the Nazarene's faith got him.
Do you mean crucified or risen from the dead?
We don't know that. At least not the risen from the dead part.
Jesus, just tell us what happened.
That was it. I was there with the servant when he went from near death to fully alive. When the other servants returned, they told us of their encounter with Jesus. He healed with a word, and I never saw his face. And since that moment, I've been pursuing Jesus from Galilee to Judea to Jerusalem, and now that I finally caught up with him, I don't even know if he's dead or alive. What do I do now?
Why don't you just believe? Have faith.
Trust me, I'm trying really hard to believe.
Look, I believe we're all going to die if we don't get out of here right now.
No one leaves until we all agree. Can't you see that we're in this together?
But how are we supposed to give a report with some of us saying Jesus is immortal and the rest of us saying his weasel disciples overpowered us and took the body? That's not a report I want to make.
I have the solution. Let's just return Jesus' body to the tomb, roll the stone back, and go on our merry way. Problem solved.
Very funny. If we had the body, that would solve everything.
Exactly. And what do you believe, Cassius?
I believe I just want to get out of this whole mess alive.
Well, let me tell you what I know. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't pursue Jesus, but I encountered him. And from what my experience was, I wish I never had. You see, I was there with Jesus when he stood before Pilate. And like Pilate, I wish I could just wash my hands of the whole thing. But once you meet Jesus, once he looks in your eyes, you can never forget it. We're all here talking about how we can save our skins. What about our souls, our hearts?
Well, maybe we should just wait for the afterlife, if there is one, to worry about that.
All the gold in the world and all the distance we can put between ourselves and this place, it makes no difference if we lose our minds.
What in the world are you talking about, man?
Well, I wasn't just there with Pilate and Jesus. I delivered a message from Pilate's wife. She looked like a ghost when she gave it to me.
What was the message?
Well, you didn't hear this from me, but it might have said, have nothing to do with that innocent man, for I suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him. Pilate was devastated when he saw that message. He immediately called for the Pharisees and the chief priests and the others and lobbied for Jesus' release. It seemed that the whole experience with Jesus just haunted Pilate. He kept saying, I see no basis for the charges against this man. But the flow of events just pushed Jesus toward the cross.
Well, why didn't Jesus defend himself? I mean, why not take a stand?
Oh, he took a stand, but not to defend himself from Pilate or the priest. He took a stand for another kingdom, another place.
What place? What kingdom?
Jesus wasn't specific. When Pilate was pushing him about why his disciples would turn on him, he just said, my kingdom is from another place. If this were my kingdom, my servants would have fought for me. But as it is, my kingdom is from another place.
What does that even mean? My kingdom is from another place? If this kingdom is somewhere else, why is he here? Why was he here? Why doesn't he just go over there, or up there, or down there, or over there, and just leave us all alone?
Maybe because he's trying to help us.
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't feel like he's helping me very much. I've never felt more conflicted in my entire life. As you said, like Pilate, I wish I could just wash my hands of the Nazarene, be done with him forever.
Well, Pilate may have washed his hands physically, but I could tell by the look in his eyes that he wasn't done with Jesus mentally. Perhaps he never will be. Perhaps Pilate will continue to search for truth. Maybe he and his wife will make it to Jesus' kingdom one day. Wherever it is, if it even is.
Don't you think Pilate may be just a little too soft as governor?
Don't tell that to the Jews. They felt his softness. Come on, we've all heard the story. Pilate, on top of the fortress, looking down on the Jewish temple court, sees some Galileans that are suspected of insurgency. They're at the altar making a sacrifice, and before they can complete their religious duty, he's dispatched a whole platoon to take them out. Their blood mingled right there on the altar with the lamb that was sacrificed.
It doesn't sound like the action of a soft governor to me.
Maybe, but Pilate certainly wasn't acting like a Roman governor when we got our orders. He didn't say, secure the tomb. He merely said, make it as secure as you can.
We did that, didn't we?
Yeah, it's almost like he knew something was going to happen.
And something did happen. And here we are. We're supposed to believe that Jesus is in his kingdom wherever it is. That's if it even is.
I know in my heart, wherever that kingdom is, that's where I want to be.
Well, good luck finding it. Jesus wasn't forthcoming about its location. It's all a big mystery.
And that mystery has real consequences, and we're feeling them right now.
What was Pilate like at the trial?
Well, the worst I ever saw Pilate was when Jesus said to him, everyone on the side of truth listens to me. Pilate could only weakly say, what is truth? Am I the only one here who cares about truth?
You see, that's why I like being a soldier. My sword always tells the truth.
Well, maybe, but you might notice that the gladius, the sword that we use, is sharpened on both sides. It cuts both ways.
So, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, if truth is a sword, sure as your sword, you might use it to cut someone, but the other side of the blade may come back and cut you. Take Judas, for instance. He got his payday when he betrayed Jesus, but the pay came back when afterwards he was so tortured that he went out and hung himself on a tree. And what about us? Will the decision we make here come back and haunt us? I can't believe that we're in this place that we are.
Well, I think that when it comes to Jesus, I don't know where he is or where he will be. But for me, I vote for blissful ignorance. Take the money now, we'll sort out the rest later. And if Jesus shows up at some point, we'll settle accounts with him. He seems like a reasonable man. Who knows, maybe we can even cut him in on the action. Who knows where he is or where he will be?
Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where he is or where he will be or what's going to happen. I just know that I'll never be the same after meeting Jesus. And I still don't know what to make of it, except that I can't seem to escape the encounter. You know, I've been part of the crucifixion squad for years now, and it makes you hard, cynical, powerful, and wounded all at the same time. I've had hundreds of men gawk at me while I would pound a spike through their hands and their feet. I couldn't sleep for days after my first crucifixion. What could anyone have done to deserve what I inflicted upon them that day? But hey, I'm just a soldier, under orders. I just do what I'm told. I've been called to every name a man can possibly be called, but that's never really bothered me. After all, what would I call a man who would so viciously take my life? Then there are those who would stare pathetically at me like a wounded animal when I would brutally end their lives. And then there was Jesus. Jesus. No curses, no desperation, just a look into my eyes that showed that he was somehow in control. And then the words that he spoke, they pierced my heart like one of my spikes pierces flesh. He said, Father, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgive me. Forgive me? I'm the one who holds his life in my very hands. He doesn't even know me, except that I'm the one who is torturing him and extinguishing his life, his very life. And yet, he says, Father, forgive him. My heart just melted.
That sounds like the Jesus I've been pursuing all this time.
You were just doing your job. You were under orders. To disobey would have been treason.
Yes, but would you have forgiven me? Would Caesar have forgiven me? Would Pilate have forgiven me? Would anyone have forgiven me? Probably only Jesus. And now he's back. Maybe.
I could be the first to go back and tell Pilate that Jesus was back. It would probably make his day. And his wife would be thrilled.
Cassius, since you were there, let me ask you. When the crucifixion was over, was the Nazarene dead? Was there any reason to fear him or revere him? Was there any reason to be arguing about him right now instead of taking our share of the money and getting on with our lives?
You see, that's where that Joseph of Arimathea guy has turned everything.
What do you mean?
Well, normally the bodies of the crucified are taken to the dump, and by the next morning, after the resident pack of wolves have made their rounds, there isn't anything to discuss. There isn't a body to worry about. There isn't a body missing. There's nothing to be construed as human remains. But then, in waltzes old Joe, with an offer that Pilate could have easily refused. But instead, this criminal is laid to rest in a rich man's tomb, and his guards and a boulder are set up as a security system so that nothing would happen. But wait a minute. Something did happen. And here we are, with either a payday or a stay and face the music day. And Pilate, his nightmares are probably worse than ever. But you know, that's his problem. The question is, what are we going to do?
We go with what's real. We take the gold and the security that it represents. Even if Jesus is alive, what will he care if we're making a better life for ourselves and for our families? Do you know what I see? I see us well and alive, living in our own homes, with our own families, living in peace.
That's funny, because what I see is Pilate hanging on that tree. But when I look closer, it's my head on that body. All because I wouldn't take a stand for the kindest man I've ever known, even though I barely met him.
Look, let's get away from what we think we see. Let's get back to what we know. What do we know?
We know that the gold is ours. We know that we would be fools to turn our backs on what's been so graciously provided.
Well, maybe, but what will history say about us? If Jesus is alive, and he brings his kingdom to us, or us to his kingdom, what will history say about four men at the crux of history who chose foolishly? What will we look like?
You're talking like our lives even matter. Like who we are, or what we decide here is going to make any difference. No. The rule for guys like us is you make the best deal that you can, and you move ahead with your life the best that you can.
Before I met Jesus, I would have agreed with you. But now I know my life does make a difference. Some things are bigger than history. This is one of them.
History. You want to argue about history. Don't you know that history is whatever Caesar says it is? You know, in Rome, even the past is uncertain. But with this money, we can buy a future for ourselves. We can buy freedom for ourselves and our families. Don't you want that?
Freedom. Freedom has its privileges. But I now find myself a member of a club that killed the Jews' Messiah, and likely the Savior of the world. I don't think I'll ever feel free again.
Have you gone mad? We're Roman soldiers with freedom in our grasp, and you want to throw it away because of a dead Jew? Think about your duty. Think about your training, the most stringent in the world.
None of the training that I've received prepared me for this situation.
Our training is not just for what we see and know, but it's also for what is unknown. That's why Rome dominates the world.
Maybe for most unknowns, but not for all unknowns. Not this unknown.
We're not getting anywhere. We're just circling around a conclusion. As I said, we must all agree. So let's talk. Vetus, what do you know?
More than you or that gold or even Caesar has to offer is the faith that Jesus spoke of. There's limits to everything else, but there's no limits to faith.
And if that faith leads to a cross, wouldn't that be rather limiting?
It wasn't limiting for Jesus. He's greater now than he was before the cross. There's more excitement surrounding him now than ever.
But you haven't seen faith. How do you even know it exists?
We haven't seen the wind, but we know it blows. We didn't see the power that moved that stone, but we know that's real. We all know that's real. Sir, you're asking us what we know. Well, I know that under orders you placed a seal on a stone. And now both the seal and the stone are missing. And that's a problem. A problem worth your life.
Yes, and the solution to that little problem is in this bag and the arrangement that it represents.
Only if we're wrong about everything else.
And you, Lucius, what do you know?
I now know more than I ever wanted to know. I just wish I knew what to do. I know now that truth is more important than freedom or gold and the things you can buy with it. What will those things mean in 100 years, regardless of what Caesar or whoever says? I must pursue the truth. And that truth does not start with a lie about what happened last night.
And you, Cassius, what do you know?
I know that Jesus looked into my eyes and forgave me freely. And I don't even understand the ramifications of what that even means. But I do know I cannot go out that door and do business as usual. I cannot continue to do things that require forgiveness when I now know that there is a better way. I will pursue the forgiveness of Jesus. And I will offer it to all those who have wronged me. There's no turning back for me. Regardless of the cost, even if it's the cross that I'm all too familiar with, I've decided. I too will follow Jesus.
Well,
The forgiveness that he offers.
sounds like we all do agree. Are you with us, Marcus?
Don't you understand? The deal is already done. That's why we have the gold. I took it for us. I took it to save us.
That's wrong.
So you are just a liar.
He sold us out.
I had to. I thought that with all of this I could bring you around and make you see reason. But all you see is Jesus. But what about me? How do I go out there and explain to the priest, explain to Pilate, maybe even explain to Caesar, hey, we've been wrong about Jesus all this time. He really is alive.
Look,
And we're following him.
look. We all agree that Jesus is alive. And find out what we do about it. we should all pursue Jesus. He's been lied about and mistreated from the start. Sir, will you participate in this last deception as well?